Deconstruction Junction podcast. I'm Dr. Flo, not telling you what I heard, but what I know. What I know is that you're loved and lovable. You've always been loved and lovable, and you're going to be loved and lovable for the rest of your life. I encourage, equip, and empower bold dreamers to use their time, talent, and treasure, making good trouble on the planet every day in clubhouse rooms, YouTube videos, TikTok videos, Instagram chats and reels. We're everywhere trying to uplift the hearts and the minds and the spirits of the people, especially on days like today. But we're not going to get to that quite yet. I want to introduce you to our fabulous co-host, Tara Paolo Studio and Poppy Wata. Tara, introduce yourself, and then we'll get Poppy Water to do so. Welcome to the pod.
Hello. Hey, y'all. Just a reminder that I have a kid, so that's what you hear in the background. I'm Tara Paolo. I am your resident Black, biracial, multi-passionate musician. I talk about the ish that nobody wants to talk about and push you to do the same. And I'm excited. Listen, I'm excited to talk about all this stuff today. We got a guest host. Poppy Wata, who are you?
Hi, I'm Poppy Water, aka Poppy Water 33 on all social media platforms. Just to let you know, remind y'all, I am a big kid, so that's what you're going to see in the foreground, okay, or in front of you, however we play that. We love the babies. I am a psychic medium, spiritualist, hoodoo practitioner and all around child lover. I love children. I love people and I love care. I do a little bit of brand design work as well. And yeah, I got a few little tidbits I would like to share today. I pray we have a beautiful grand time.
It's going to be a blast. Thank you, Poppy Water, for joining us. He decided he wanted to jump in this week, and we love when Poppy Water stops by as one of our consistent co-hosts and guests. Tara is out the gate first with this incredible subject that has been plaguing my TV screen for the last, 48 hours. Take it away, Tara. Talk to us about this bastard of a bill.
So, BBB, the big beautiful bill, otherwise known as the big bullshit bill. You can listen. Would you make the next slide big for me, and I will read you some threads, friends, and then I'll give you a little bit more backstory. But let us read. Booker Squared says the budget bill has passed. I'm so sorry that Republicans care more about pleasing the wealthy than actually doing right by the majority of American citizens. I appreciate everyone who fought the good fight and pushed back. I appreciate the storytellers who were vulnerable and shared their stories about how their lives will be severely harmed by this legislation. I appreciate all of the community organizers who are already planning for backup support services. We will continue to fight. Michael LeBourne says, and we lost. Just like that, the bill has passed. Millions of Americans' lives are about to be at risk. The fight's not over because unfortunately much worse is on the way. Be angry, grieve, but then we got to get even more serious about mutual aid, community, and actually taking action when community organizers tell us what needs to be done. I'm going to read that last part one more time. Actually taking action when community organizers tell us what needs to be done. None of us can sit this out. And Portia.Noir, y'all know how I feel about her. I wasn't going to have another glass of wine. And then I remembered the dumpster fire that is this world. I'm having another glass of wine. Please flip to the next page and go ahead and we will listen to Representative Ayanna Pressley. Give us a little more. I'll read this blurb first. If passed, Republicans' bill would be absolutely unforgivable. She posted this last night. Earlier this morning before the bill passed. I'm fighting with everything I've got because I see every child who stands to be harmed as my own. I see every elder who stands to be harmed by this bill as my own family. Millions of people could die. And behind every statistic is a person, a family, a loved one. And she has a video that goes with this.
Off the floor for a moment because I just found myself getting emotional, especially thinking about my disabled siblings and our current Secretary of Health and Human Services. And then this betrayal of a bill, this callous bill, and the impacts on Medicaid, the Affordable Care Act, and the Children's Health Insurance Program. It's not abstract. People are going to die. When you look across the aisle, their seats are empty, which upsets me even more because they know enough. They're carrying enough shame that they can't even be here in defense of what is immoral and indefensible. So that means they know better. And they're still doing it. And they've wrapped themselves in some fake flag of patriotism, which is really just white nationalism. Hypocrites in their alleged faith. It's just godless. These actions are godless and reckless and cruel. I just had to step off the floor for a moment because I just found myself getting.
So for those of you who may not know what exactly the Big Beautiful Bill is, it is a budget reconciliation bill that has been in government over the last 3 to 4 weeks, I would say, being worked on in the House, sent off to the Senate. The Senate was cowards. They redid the bill and made it even worse than the House had it. And then it was sent back to the House. And the House Republicans were bullied. There were some that were thinking about voting no. And the last 24 hours, they have been bullied into saying yes to this bill, and it is being sent over to Donald Trump's desk. He demanded that it be done by July 4th, and the Republicans pushed it through. In this bill is the inclusion of kicking off 17 million people from Medicaid, also cuts to Medicare, also cuts to Planned Parenthood, and also more funding for ICE, just to name a few. And if you are interested in reading more, it is all across the internet. So, just do a little search, but that's just some surface level horrors of this bill.
I'm looking up right now what the population of the United States is, and it just occurred to me what's going on. It occurred to me what's going on. There's 340 million people in the United States. 17 million are underprovided for, which means that there are a huge amount of adults in this country who feel I'm not getting my health care taken care of, and no one's buying my food. So I don't care that anybody else's food is taken care of. And I think that sucks because everybody doesn't have the same opportunity and access to food and healthcare and taking care of themselves. And instead of saying, yo, we've got enough abundance, we've got enough money, we've got enough resources to take care of everybody and make sure no one's left behind, they are sacrificing 17 million because there's 17 million out of 340 million. And I think that sucks. I really do. I really think it does. And we've seen this, why I think it was Dr. Mehmet Oz of Oprah, Dr. Oz, who was talking about these grown men who are sitting at home playing video games, mooching essentially off of the healthcare system. He was using them, and many Republicans are using them as the reason why they can't provide healthcare for our elderly and our babies. And I think that sucks. Because when I put it in context of 17 million people needing help, that's not the majority of people. That's not everyone in crisis. And like we talked about earlier behind the scenes, people care about their houses being on fire and their families' homes being on fire. They don't care about their neighbors' homes being on fire or their neighbors struggling. And that's the beginning, middle, and end of all of our fuck ups. Poppy Water, how do you feel about the big black bill or the big bullshit bill, or how do you feel about it?
I just think this is just a firm thinning of the herd. And when I say the herd, I mean people that are more likely to band together and come out against this government. That's partly what I think it is. I also think it's just more so about billionaires lining their pockets, and it's a distraction. To include the part about ICE. We're going to fund ICE. We're going to give more money to ICE because we told you, we made these promises to our followers that we would stop these invaders, right, from coming into our country. We would crack down on immigration and all these things to distract them from the fact that they're lining their pockets and lining the pockets of the rich, giving these tax breaks. So I feel like it's a cloak along with, let's kill off the poor, let's kill off the people that wouldn't agree with us anyways, those that would speak out against us, because we're not actually helping them in this deal either. So yeah, I also I see myself as more radical on it anyways, because one thought I'm not even gonna say in the public space, and then the other, I just think this is what hmm, these are the results of white fear, and specifically a loss of power. And she spoke to it in the video. She was talking about white nationalism. And I just see all of these disruptions and all of this chaos being caused and all of the fear mongering happening as a way to try to force us to stay under thumb and to keep us in a place where we're so neurotic that we cannot organize and get ourselves together and be self-sufficient. And because I think that they're fearing they're going to lose power with just the way that they see Americans speaking online. On places like TikTok, you see there's a call to get rid of it because people are speaking so freely on that app. And so, yeah, I think that's just a product of that. I also, on a brighter note, I do think that this is a needed wake up call for a lot of people who felt that they could depend on the government for resources. Because in my own personal experiences in this life, the government has never really proven to be dependable as far as taking care of you. Like all these people living on the government, living off the government, living carefree. Anyone who's getting government assistance is not fucking carefree. I don't care what anybody says. You can look at from Section 8 alone. I've watched mothers be harassed by their agents. Who's that man there? Their brother can't even visit the damn house to see the children. Who's that man? I drove by and I saw a man there. Like, don't make too much money or we'll drop you off. Oh, your children cannot have a pool because that means you don't need us then. So you can't even enjoy certain joys that everyone is wishing to have underneath this American dream. It's just a stipulation. So I don't know. I think it's just, I think bullshit attracts bullshit. Why would not? Why wouldn't they create a bullshit bill? I feel there.
Thank you, Poppy Water, and shout out to Sister Murphy. Welcome back to the Fun Bunch. We're in Deconstruction Junction, where we are talking about all the things, and we started with the bill that was passed on Capitol Hill just hours ago. That's going to strip millions of people from their access to support, and a lot of people are going to fall into the hole as a result of this. And I wish it were not so. We were talking before we came in here about how wealth has been distributed over the last several hundred years, and how there's always been oppressors, oppressors that look like everyone else, oppressors that look like us. There's always been some kind of push and pull as it related to access and resources and people being able to provide for the legacy of their families and in the present moment. I wanted to talk today randomly about Mansa Musa because we have this idea that Elon Musk is like the richest man ever on the planet, and that there isn't any other kind of story. And okay, what's coming up for you, Poppy? Go for it.
I'm trying to see how freely I want to say this. I don't even think that bitch is the richest man alive right now. I think people with more wealth and abundance are not as reckless to put their own faces out there and to soil their legacy with the bullshit that he's used. I think he's just the richest man in our face right now, aggressing against the rights of the people and is aligned with the government and who in their own ways and connection points is tied in with the media. And so they're throwing it up in our face. I feel like we're steady getting, it's the shuffling of Elon and his money being tossed in our face, but he's not the richest man even right now. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say. We're not gonna get into how he got his money, colonize our money.
I think it's important to recognize that wealth looks like a lot of different people. And you can't really paint in broad strokes. You can't say that Black people inherently are not wealthy, and you can't say that white people are inherently wealthy. We have tons of examples of a difference. This is from March 9th, 2019. Is Mansa Musa the richest man who ever lived? I'll read a couple passages of this. Another oppressor of our time, Amazon founder Jeff Bezos, is the richest man in the world according to 2019 Forbes billionaires list, with an estimated fortune at the time of this writing of $131 billion. But he is by no means the richest man of all time. The title is believed to belong to Mansa Musa, the 14th century West African ruler who was so rich his generous handouts wrecked an entire country's economy. Once again, he was so rich, his generous handouts wrecked an entire country's economy. Contemporary accounts of Musa's wealth are so breathless that it's almost impossible to get a sense of how wealthy and powerful he truly was. Rudolph Butch Ware, associate professor of history at the University of California, said Mansa Musa was richer than anyone could describe. In 2012, U.S. website Celebrity Net Worth estimated Mansa Musa's wealth at $400 billion. But economic historians agree that his wealth is impossible to pin down to that number. Why do you think our wealthy to the room are not so generous that they're trying to wreck the U.S. economy and other economies? Is there overlap between what it means to be a billionaire and generous or not?
I argue that so the part where it says he was so generous that he wrecked another country's financial ecosystem or economic system, some ecosystem. Most likely he wrecked that system because it was built on lack and a hierarchy based on people someone not having what another person has to be able to tier and stack on top of one another. And I think we're in a different state because the millionaires that we're dealing with today are a part of a similar system that he may have crashed by being generous. Because I I doubt that there weren't wealthy people within that system in those countries. They just were either holding on to the wealth or was just not being distributed equally. So once you give those impoverished or those with the have-nots, you give them something, then it throws off balance. But is it as chaotic as it sounds for everyone to have equal opportunity unless you have those at the top wanting to scramble and still have the most because that is connected to political and social power. So that's my tidbit.
Tara, do you think this is the reason why we don't have universal basic income and things like that? Because there is this fear that if the wealth was distributed by generous billionaires, that it would wreck this economy that's made up anyway?
No, I think people legitimately believe that trickle down economics is happening. I think there's this phenomenon that we believe that the philanthropy of the billionaires currently is enough, right? We applaud. We are like, yes, Oprah, you gave that one person in your audience a car and you're a multi-billionaire. Yes, Bezos, you gave us a sale. You know, like $100,000 or The Rock, any of these rich people, like, right. The Rock gave back to, I think it was Hawaii, back when something happened. I don't remember exactly what it was, but we in society are essentially praising people for the bare minimum, right? Of what they could do with their power. I don't think it has anything to do with, squashing economies, because if that were the case, they would not hoard it, and they also would try to destroy the other economies that are in existence, like China. And they are doing that, but they're not doing it by giving away their wealth, right? And so I think it's capitalism. Capitalism says, to hoard, right? And even like the quote unquote good billionaires, like you look at a Warren Buffett, right? Who is, in my opinion, someone that has become known as like the good old man, right? The good old man billionaire. But he's hoarding wealth too. Like, so he doesn't spend it on his cars. He doesn't spend it on his kids. He doesn't spend it, but yet it's not going back out in the community. It's being hoarded until he dies, in which case it will go to his children. And I just think that phenomenon is real. I think about my family, and it's like, yeah, there's money there for the will, like it's written in the will, but like, why are you hoarding it now? That's a societal, capitalistic ideology. And so I really don't think it has anything, like, I don't think it's in the goodness of their heart, like, to be generous. I think they really are addicted to the power, and they're allowed to be addicted to that power, because what are most people trying to do? Get rich, right? Protect their families. And how do you protect your family? Make a lot of money so that you don't have to engage with people. Right?
So you can build your Zuckerberg bunker and go underground if
right.
the shit hits the fan.
Build your space bus, like build your space force. Like that is, that's what we are taught to try and go get, essentially.
Wait. All right, so we talk about a bunch of different subjects at the same time here on the podcast. If you're just now joining us either on Spotify, Apple Music podcast, Android podcast, Stitcher Radio, YouTube, wherever you're tuning in today, or you may be live over on YouTube with us and tuning in. We are joined today by a wonderful co-host, my partner in life, Poppy Water 33 on all platforms. And he really insisted on coming on this week to talk about a few topics that were important to him and things that he wanted to lift. The first one being vulnerable narcissism. And did you want me to play the video first, or did you want to set up the video before we press play?
I'm going to go ahead and define vulnerable narcissism, and then I would love for us to discuss whether we're seeing it play out in the video at present. You can watch it, and I would love to have hear your thoughts on how it correlates or if you even see it. And then, yeah, then we'll move on. All right, so vulnerable narcissism, the traits include hypersensitivity, self-pity, shame, withdrawal, and envy. Okay. And I'm not going to get too much into how it can show up in the ways that it's going to be presented in the video, possibly. I don't want to go that far, but most more than not, it's just the life is going so bad for me. So many bad things are happening to me. This is happening to me. Therefore, I cannot expand outside of my inner world to care or understand what is going on with the next person. Therefore, therefore, I also cannot be at fault for what harm I may be doing to you, because that is not important and that doesn't matter because so much is happening to me. I'm such a bad person, or I've been harmed by a bad person. I'm in such a bad situation, or my life is not like so and so's. I'm not as rich as that person. I don't have the legacy my sister has. No one loved me the same. So therefore, I can't, and I have a justified reason to not care for someone else or to consider someone else's viewpoint. Get over what you got going on because I have this going on. So
Does this align, Poppy Water, with what I call the oppression Olympics? If I had $1 for every time someone came into my presence and said, you know, my grandma and my great great grandparents were in the Holocaust, and you know, and treat me special because you know I'm vulnerable because of my history and my past, and then you get the black people or allegedly black people going, you know, but what about middle passage and the fact that we've built so much in this country and not been honored for it? Do you think that that is part of the vulnerability narcissism?
I think it is. It depends how it's used, in my opinion, and how it shows up. Because in that example, when you have black people like saying, "Well, what about the middle passage?" Um, it's in a gray area whether they're showing vulnerable narcissism, but if specifically if you have someone who is of European descent or defines themselves as white, if they're going in response to someone saying to an African American saying, "Hey, we're being abused by the cops. I want help. These laws need to be changed. They should not be able to harm us in these ways. They should not be able to stop and frisk us," for example. And then the response is, "Well, we went through the Holocaust. The Holocaust was worse. You should have seen how people were rounded up during the Holocaust, being taken to internment camps." That's a different type, like, you know, like in order to minimize someone else's needs or response that they're asking for in the moment. That's where I see it kind of playing out more so. And the going back and forth, I think that's why I say it's gray, because African Americans would technically still be doing so and trying to minimize what happened to the Holocaust. But it also could be true, like, hey, I acknowledge that, and similar things happen to us, and I'm asking for a different issue to be resolved. It still doesn't make my present issue any less important. So that's why I say it's like gray. But if you have African Americans, let's say someone is being oppressed of another group, and then they decide to say, well, we have slavery, get over that. It would be the same, it would be showing up as vulnerable narcissism in that way. Well, I'm oppressed, so who cares what's happening to you in your present? I have been oppressed, so that doesn't matter. It's not a problem.
I can't stand the oppression Olympics, especially when there's so much to heal and a need to come together to help everybody. Let's go into this video and see what happens here.
Oh my gosh. See, Dre's cleaning up.
Mom, I don't care. Hurry up because it shouldn't have been dirty in the damn first place.
Oh my god. Mom, we just got up and ate and stuff.
It don't matter. Shit, I'm tired. Damn it, I'm tired.
Oh my gosh. Mom's not that serious. Calm down. Calm down. It's okay. It's okay.
No, the what? Okay, all right. All right, baby. Go, just hurry up. Did you call your dad?
Yes.
Yeah.
Mom, why are you tripping?
I'm not tripping. I'm not tripping.
You are.
Not just clean up. It should have been clean.
Mom, we just got up and ate.
It should have been clean. This house is nasty. I'm tired of living like this. I don't, no,
Mom.
it's just too much, okay? It's too much going on. It's too much going on. Y'all need to clean up. Y'all not doing everything y'all supposed to do. We are cleaning up.
Right, we're cleaning up.
Yes, doing nothing.
Yes, we
You're
are.
not doing nothing. I'm tired of it. Y'all didn't go get it. Let me down.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
I didn't realize from this rewatch of this that her hair was in the damn sink.
Yeah. So I tied that in. I'm curious as to your thoughts and how it could be presented. And even though now for me seeing that, I've experienced not that, but I've experienced similar things in my childhood. And so what the angle that I'm seeing it as or seeing it from is that, because I'm stressed, because she mentioned just living like this and being seems to be getting off work, stressed from whatever job she's coming from and the overall lifestyle that they're
The
having to
lady is
live or
clearly
living
in
the
a
moment.
cry for help.
I'm tired. Right, because I'm in agony or I'm stressed, I no longer have to be responsible for the way that I'm showing up to my children, and the way that I'm being emotionally unregulated. And I'm holding my children responsible for what is happening to me. And even trying to relinquish having the kids and first to tell them to go call their father to be with their father. And there's no thought or understanding of how this is affecting the children. And then also I'm looking at the house. I didn't see what she was describing as filthy, nasty. So for me, it showed up as vulnerable narcissism in the way that not so emphasized in the ways that we talked about as far as the government, but just in a I can walk around unregulated. My world is all that matters because I'm stressed. Who knows? The children could be just as stressed by the living situation and the financial strain as the mother, especially if she takes it out and responds and tosses her concerns out at them in that manner. Because I doubt that was the first time there was an outburst like that happened. Now I don't know if she probably ain't cutting her hair every time, but it's still like the point. But it's also more to be interpreted by the video. I'm curious as to thought.
Paolo's the only parent in the room who has probably felt that level of meltdown inside, because kids can be stressful. What did you see coming out of that woman, and how does it relate to centering yourself when you feel vulnerable?
I read the caption and listen, like, I guess I don't see it as much as vulnerable narcissism. I see it a little bit more, as you said, Dr. Flo, which is that it is a cry for help. Like she's very clearly in a mental space that is overwhelmed. She's tired. She's, and this is one of those things, like we talked about black fatigue a couple weeks ago, but this is a woman that has multiple kids, right? We hear them in the background. And also is, the father is not at home. Right. And there is an emotional labor and a amount of labor from being the person in the home all of the time that, like, I mean, yeah, there's a preservation and that comes up, and there's a desperation that comes up in that. And it's not like I need to care for myself. It's I literally cannot survive this way anymore. Like, I mean, I've been at that place, like when Piper was not sleeping, when the house, I would walk out and then like the dog had barfed on the floor, or like, like even yesterday, there was water in the basement, the air conditioner had broke. I'm the one home. I'm the one that manages the finances. I'm the one that cares for the baby the majority of the time. And I only have one baby that's not old enough to clean or to help. And I have felt that level of like, oh my gosh,
This is not sustainable. I cannot keep going on like this.
Right. Like, yeah. So I guess I like my mama heart empathizes with her, because I think that every caregiver that has been at home with a child that also then manages everything else in life, because the capitalism tells us in this case that the male figure should just have to go earn, right? Should just have to go earn. I understand that place. And I'm also a stay-at-home working mom, right? Y'all, like, there are so many ways that I feel for that woman. I would never call her narcissistic. I simply see a very overwhelmed mama that needs some help, and she doesn't know how to ask for it. I don't see that as a neglect of her kids. I don't see that as a anything towards the kids. One glance of her house could have been cleaned simply because she cleaned it the night before, and she woke up still feeling panicked about what happened to her nervous system the day before because her spouse and her kids left it a mess. And she's at the end of her rope. And this is the only way that she can ask for help, or this is the way that she can get attention, because a lot of times people are just walked over. Right. And so I just, like, I'm defending this mama bear without knowing a lot, but I have been there, and I've only been a mom for 14 months. I've been at that point where it's like, she said it time and time again in that video, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. I'm so tired. I can't do this anymore. I am so tired. Whether or not she cleaned the house, whether or not that's physically tired, or if it's emotionally tired and mentally tired of having to put up the front of everything being okay, because if you're not okay, nobody else is okay. And that's what happens in households around America, right?
All over the world.
Yeah.
We were in a clubhouse room just day before yesterday, where a young woman whose mother transitioned had to assume that role, or is being asked to assume that matriarchal role in her home. And she's like, yo, I don't want that kind of pressure. All right, let's move on to the next one. Not applying this to the woman we just saw, but there are also legitimate instances of narcissistic parenting. Poppy, did you want to set this up for us?
Yes, I also think you said it perfectly. And I wanted to mention that I'm grateful for your opinion on that, Tara, because I said I saw it through my own spin and lens at the same time, but it was very much open a little bit, because even just coming back to it, I was like, she could be fitting that standard, she could not be fitting that standard as far as the outburst, but I don't know what happens in that house. So I can't fully speak on it. And I do see what you're saying, because I've seen my mother in that particular phase before. And then I think it was a beautiful, when you spoke, I was like, I'm kind of glad that these two videos are here with one another. Because I think one is more undeniably narcissistic parenting, and the other one is more so depending on who's looking and if there's more facts, and could literally just, this is a cry for help from the mother. And how that impacts a child. So you can go ahead and play this next one, and then I'll talk about a few different
What you talking about
narcissistic
yourself, bro?
parenting.
And you don't give a. It's not my fault. I don't care. You're not going to fault me for that. That's like the magic bullet. I'm not biting the magic bullet. You are the only parent in the house, bro. I'm so bound. I'm not biting the magic bullet. You're the only parent in the house. That's why I got to do this. I got to do for my daughter. Murdered, and you're not going to tell me talking about yourself. Why? Why are you talking about yourself, bro? Because you think you're being selfish right now. How? Because you're screaming at me. You shouldn't. You should respect me.
Let us take a moment. We can have a conversation because the pain. It's pain.
I can bet that she never heard that before. And how he handled that, this is just pain. Let her have it. This is just pain. Beautiful. Beautiful. Because probably she was gaslighted in her life to believing that there is a problem with her, that her emotions are not valid, that she's overreacting, that there's something wrong with her. Yes, she's a problem and there is something wrong with her and there is no problem in me. But that's what you get being raised by a narcissistic parent. That's never their fault, always your fault. They're always a victim. They didn't do anything wrong. And then as a child, if you want to communicate, you can't because there is a wall. And what you react with more anger because you are being disrespected, with more screaming because you are just being continuously not listened to. So you try to scream in order to be listened to. Nothing wrong with that. This is just an emotion and how we work through those emotions. So first we have to acknowledge that this is our inner child. That's why this emotion is so strong, because children do not have emotional granularity. They can't say, I'm a little bit frustrated. No, they feel anger, raw anger. And this is the emotion that is being triggered, that is being still unprocessed. So what you need to do, you need to give it space. You need to breathe through it. You have to acknowledge, I feel this emotion. And then you have to reparent yourself. So give yourself the type of care and attention that you didn't get from your parent.
What you talking about yourself, bro? Right. And you don't give a. It's not my fault. I don't care. You're not going to fault me for that. That's like the magic bullet.
Wow.
Wow, indeed. And I'm glad it. I'm also very glad that it played a little bit again at the end because it just really further highlighted what she talked through as far as what happened in the video. Clearly, you see the mom centering her experiences. Nothing's my fault. It's not my fault. You're not going to fault me for not giving you what you need or for not hearing you or for having to talk about why I can't show up for you because of what happened to me. And clearly that was her daughter's experience growing up, but she didn't want to hear that. And so when we look at which I think that is a firm case of vulnerable narcissism. And there's other types of narcissism that do show up in parenting. And specifically for vulnerable narcissism, as we've seen above, parents view their child as independent. Well, they view their child's independence as or happiness as betrayal sometimes. They can also use guilt or emotional withdrawal or silent treatment to control their children or to make them get in line. Or like she said, you're loud, you're disruptive, and I have all these things going on with me, even though the child is just simply trying to convey how they're feeling and what they're going through. They might even say things like, after all I do for you, this is how you treat me. That whole shebang. And then out of that, children just really learn to attune their emotions to others so that they don't feel guilty. They become adults that are like, I have to morph and blend in order to not hurt people's feelings, in order to be considerate of other people. I have to suppress my needs. And they even feel selfish for having boundaries at all in the first place. It also can lead, like I said, those are all symptoms of people pleasing. It can lead to people pleasing and just anxiety around relationships when they're adults. And that's just vulnerable narcissism. And then you have grandiose narcissism, which is very overt. It can show up as overconfidence, entitlement, dominance, or need for admiration. Okay. Also be linked with extroversion and low agreeableness. Like I'm, I'm right, you're wrong. That. In parenting, you may see it as the parent seeks to live through the child's achievements. My daughter, I'm putting her up on the stage because I always wanted to be a cheerleader. My daughter's going to be a cheerleader. She's going to be good for mommy. Mommy wants to do this. Child is expected to be exceptional, to reflect the parent's status. My child is an amazing singer, so that means that I'm good. I'm a great person. That my status is higher in society because my child is this amazing singer with these plaques, and my child has straight A's. So that makes me a good person and raises my status. And then it also comes with conditional love based on how the child does. If you don't do good, well, then I treat you poorly. If you do well, then I give you all the love and the affection that you need. And that's the grandiose. Again, this results in children feeling like and turning into adults that feel like they have to earn love by being impressive. I have to impress people to be liked. I have to do what they like to be loved. Those things. It can lead to, again, that suppression of emotion and constant self-monitoring and fear of failure. And then you have malignant narcissism, which is narcissism kind of paired with antisocial traits and paranoia and aggression. So it often overlaps with people being labeled as being psychopathic or those borderline traits. In parenting, it's when a parent uses fear, humiliation, they gaslight, or full blown just use violence to maintain control. And there's clear examples of that. We got I almost said capital punishment, girl. I hope not. I don't know why I can't think of the name. Is the proper name for when people are using belts on their child. Physical punishment, I guess, to maintain power. Okay, and the children feel like they have to walk on eggshells, and they feel emotionally neglected because everything is solved through violence or that humiliation or intimidation. Like, I think about parents who make their children do push-ups, and there's no conversation around the wrong or getting an understanding on why the child had the misstep. They just know if I do something wrong, I'm doing the push-ups. So now I'm scared to do anything wrong, and I can't even ask or talk about it because I don't want to be seen as being disrespectful, i.e., the gaslighting. And so I'm just scared to even have the discussion. So I never really develop in the area. I just know to either hide or make myself smaller or to avoid the situation altogether. It really doesn't fix anything. This makes children grow up and become people who internalize their worth as being tied to being obedient and to survive. I have to listen and follow the law, follow the rules in order to survive. They also develop PTSD. Some can be dissociative and become emotionally numb. And they may adopt a like fondness behaviors, I guess. When that showed up, I looked up fondness. For me, that showed up as like fawning behavior, like being like idealizing people with power and doing whatever they say without a question. That's how I interpreted that. And then you have communal narcissism, which is just basically you wanting to seek admiration for being morally superior. And so it's, I'm the best parent. I'm the more holier than thou parent. And that's showing up by, being by demanding that. I'm the perfect parent. Child is guilted into gratitude or silence. Like, say thank you. I'm doing this for you. I'm a good mom. Did not buy you those shoes. Did not buy you that shirt. Which again show it leads to emotional neglect. Their self-worth being around I'm being good, right? Or I sacrifice my needs. And then you have somatic narcissism. I'm trying to wrap them up. It's a list. I'm not shorten them,
There's
which is
definitely a list.
there is definitely a list, child. We almost there. I promise. Yeah. Somatic narcissism, which is just around physical appearance or can be shown as sexual dominance. Parents pressuring their children to look good, which just can lead to body dysmorphia, and children become hyper aware of their physical flaws as they age up. And then you have cerebral narcissism, which is just the esteems intellect over others, right? I'm more intelligent, I'm smarter than you, so therefore I have power here. Where parents mock their child's emotions or overvalues academic and intellectual success, which we've seen in other forms of narcissism, but it shows up here as well. This can cause children to feel like, what I know makes me have value. If I don't know enough, if I'm not smart enough, then I'm not valuable. I'm not, my emotions are weaknesses. If I go off of emotions versus facts, I'm not smart enough. And then you have inverted narcissism, which I wish I had a list so that we can reference them, but I'm coming to the point um, gradually. Inverted narcissism, which is just seen as codependency or can be linked to codependency, is just gaining self-worth by being close to a grandiose narcissist. How close you are to me, how much you give into the pressures of the dominance that I'm trying to impose. Which just shows up as in children as they develop. They learn to just ignore injustice and cater to the abuser in order to get the love and affection and to be seen as right. And then that's it. My point being, and just how children tend to grow up that have narcissistic parents, whether it be any of these forms, is that they grow up being people who suppress who they are, suppress their needs in order to please someone else or to please an external force or to survive an external force. And I think that is how we end up in the state that we are as far as this country is concerned, where you have everyday citizens not willing to stand up for what they know is right or for what they agree with. Um, in themselves and out of fear of either not wanting to be harmed by external force or not being loved or accepted by an external group or person or out of guilt or shame or just feeling like internally my opinion really doesn't matter. I'm just this one person, so let me assimilate into the group and give in. And I feel like that a lot or has to do with what we see out in the streets. And we're like, why aren't more people standing up? Why are you voting for a bill that you know is wrong, that you don't agree with it? How are you allowed to be bullied into voting for something that you don't agree with? But yeah, I just that overall, my opinion doesn't matter. Love must be earned. It's safer to make myself small. Disagreements equal rejection. Just the compliance equals survival. And that doesn't make a productive society. I think that's how we end up like being bred in order to be um, under dictatorship. So yeah, I'm not saying that's the whole issue. I'm saying that's the part of the problem. And the reason why I felt so strongly and wanted to bring it up is because I'm like, a lot of times we want to just solely blame, schools for being why our children grow up to be adults that don't lead properly or are not building a sustainable society or a part of what we want society to look like. But at the same time, we have parents creating those thoughts as well. We have a part in how we raise our children to be healthy adults that can give back to society and not perpetuate a lot of the problems that we see. So this is my long-winded way of saying the power is also in our hands at home and how we raise our children and how we love our children and allowing them to express emotion and be better. And yeah, that's my TED talk on narcissism. That's why I asked, I was like, how long, child? How long do you want me to go? Because I go. But I just saw those connecting points, and I'm curious as to what you think. If you remember anything from the spiel, just what stands out to you, and do you think that it's linked? Do you think that it's all the parents' fault? Do you think it's parents plus society? Do you think that it depends on the child and who they're just already going to be? How do we get here? The follower mentality. How you feel?
Listen, I still like, thank you for the explanations. And at the end of your share, I think, what do I think? I think there's a lot of binary thinking, right? Like, and you pointed to it at the end, like, oh, a lot of people blame the schools, a lot of people blame the parents. It could be both. It could be neither. Could be both. It could be neither. Because in that video, like, I mean, I did see obviously a kid screaming about the way that they felt like they had been raised. But I also saw a mother who was, I hope that's fireworks.
Yeah.
I also saw a mother who was trying to maintain her boundaries. And so I think, like, you know, like there's so many words in our society that get these negative connotations, but at the same time, like, it's not always the mother's fault sometimes, and it's not always the father's fault, and it's not always like the parents' fault, it's not always the caregiver's fault. Sometimes it's the interpretation of the kid, and how they see the world. And we also, like, I think there's sometimes this idea that, like, I talked about this in a Clubhouse room last week. There's an idea that parents have to give up their entire identity and all of their boundaries simply because they have kids, simply because they're parents. And the real reality is that, like, we do not need to. We are whole people too. We have our like, at the beginning of your share, I was like, is it always the parents' fault? Is it always the parents' fault? Yeah, parenting is the hardest job that exists, but it's a job, right? It's a job. Like that, like that's what Tony's saying in the comments, y'all, that can't see that on the screen. But like, it to me, it's so like to label a mom saying like, no, that's not how I saw it, or like, you will not yell at me this way, you will respect me. That's two people communicating. That's something I demand of adults around me. That was an almost adult child. Like, I'm going to take that point, and I'm not going to apologize for it, because I really don't. And again, I don't know enough about that kid and that mom and that relationship, because I'm not in their house. Do I agree with the way that child approached it? No. Do I agree with the lady that was talking afterwards that said, you know, like, the child is just like, they just know anger, and so they react in that way? Yes. Right. And again, do I think that's wrong? Yes. However, I actually thought the mom handled herself pretty well, because the one of the other ways that mom could have reacted was screaming, and then we would have said that the mom was wrong too. So in any iteration, the mom is wrong, and that is not okay. That's not okay, to just assume that all parenting is wrong, because that is how we start mom shaming and dad shaming and parent shaming and caregiver shaming. And that is the bane of society. That is why people are afraid to be parents. That is why people are afraid to talk to children. That is why people are afraid to relate to children as adults. Like, it's just the way that we shame people for the way that they raise their kids, when in fact, the child, and this is what I've been kind of pointing to in clubhouse rooms when people are like, women deserve to be defended, women deserve to be defended, women deserve to be defended. And I'm like, so do men, so do kids. Stop infantilizing the fuck out of people. That's weird. That's a weird thing to do. Kids are whole people. They're whole people. Some people believe that kids are owned. Some people believe that the kid is theirs. Kids are their own person. So that child is reacting to their own anger. It says next to nothing about their teachers, their parent, their caregivers, their friends. It has everything to do with how that child is processing that emotion in that moment. Don't come for the parent because the child is acting some type of way. And don't come for the kid because the parent is acting some type of way. Thank you, Poppy Water, but I got riled up, child. Okay, let me calm down. I yield.
During that entire share, I kept thinking about needs or narcissism. We like to throw that word around in society. Narcissism. Are they a narcissist, or are they a person who's prioritizing their needs in a way that's not healthy communication? And
I was trying to point to you, and I can't.
Like, where are you?
Here, and I can't. I'm like, where is he? He's.
Yeah, and so I think that people like to label folks as narcissists when there's not healthy communication. You know, that daughter clearly was in pain and did not have a healthy way of communicating with her mom, and her mom, based on the way their relationship was unfolding on camera, did not have a healthy way of managing her needs as it related from mom to child. If you are, those are the Cheez-Its, y'all, for those of you listening, coming up. If you are a parent who's constantly centering your story and sucking all of the air out of the space, that's a problem. You know? And it just seemed less narcissism. I can't even say the word. Narcissism. It seemed less of that and more people who need to sit down and really get clear about where the overlap is in the needs of building a healthy and strong relationship. I don't think that we as Americans and we as adults and we as children are given the proper tools to manage our needs. And it turns into very toxic situations because even in that moment, the host could have, I think it's Karamo, looked like he was sitting there. It looked like the Karamo show or some shit like that, where these shows are also
set people up.
I'm sorry?
They set people up.
Yeah, it's all orchestrated to be that kind of crazy town. He could have said, you know what I need right now? I need for you all to calm down and talk to each other from the I statement and from what your core needs are. Instead, we got that whole Jerry Springer moment. So we got to ask ourselves, like, do parents have the space to healthily express their needs? Do kids have the spaces to say how they feel? Y'all know me. I came from a background of do as I say, boy. You know? Narcissistic need to be the center of gravity in every relationship you have. I was very, very happy when my narcissist died. I no longer had to feel that gravitational pull on my heart. So it really, I saw today's segment as a call to action. If you are out there listening to the podcast, if you're watching it live right now and you feel like you have a narcissist in your life, maybe you don't want to go out of the way of centering their need and making them the ruler of your story, but you may want to figure out what the core need is. That's something we do very, very great here in Love and Action Network. We try to I kept asking myself during Poppy Water's segment today, what is his need to explain? And I still want to know, Poppy Water, why did you need today to express about parental narcissism and tease it out this way for us?
Well, my main thing is this actually happening to me? Is it actually my parents' fault? Do my parents actually have this power to shift me into being this person fully in totality? And also wanted to bring the notion of like, are these types of relationships where the child is seeing the parent is narcissistic, the parent is seeing, I don't know how to relate to my child, or I'm having struggles, or I'm overwhelmed as the first mom is, are these types of dynamics um, more imposed on marginalized families who do not live above a certain wage? Because there's more stressors involved, there's more time spent at work. There, where is food coming from? That worry, that concern. You see more marginalized families being broken up due to stress. There's not two parents in the household, things of that nature, and just the pressures of society also coming down and affecting the ability that the parent has to parent. Because I'm not someone who personally blames my mom and dad for everything. I see moments where my mom and dad could have done better, and I am, as an adult who can look back and see where they could have done better, I also have the same mind to figure out what can I do to heal and help myself now. As she talked through when she responded, hmm, when she talked through, and can you hear me? Okay, my alarm went off. Um, Bedtime. When she spoke and responded to the video, she was giving the tools on how in the child's place, not being a child's place, but in the the daughter's energy. If you're in that position where you're getting angry and you've never been really taught to regulate your emotions, to take time to breathe and to process what's happening before responding versus blowing up. She kind of spoke through that, and to kind of parent yourself in that moment and not be so expecting someone who never had that to give that to you, right? For reasons that are the mom's fault or not her fault. Uh, some parents just are not emotionally equipped. That's not, no one's taken a test before they're having to have children. Some parents are more so than others, and some just simply can't be because of the circumstances. And no one's going to get it right every time. So I agree with a lot of what Tara is saying. I more so want to bring this up just to talk through it. When is it like, when is a parent being the narcissist? I want to talk through it because it brought up things in me where I was like, well, I had my mom, like I had moments where I could view my mom as participating or showcasing vulnerable narcissism versus like being an outright vulnerable narcissist. Sarah, are you okay?
Yes. So, complete your last thought.
I think you're frozen.
He's not frozen for me.
Um,
Um,
yeah, my whole thing, I just wanted to talk through it because I had an emotional response to it when I first initially seen the video, and I just began to be on a spiral between like narcissistic parenting and versus it being the parent's fault or the child's fault or whoever's fault. And I've been in a place where I wanted to blame my parents for everything. I've also been in a space where I see where they didn't have everything they needed from generations before them or just
How
from the support in the community. So
how would
I
communication have healed it? How would having better tools of communication healed it in your past, Poppy?
I think it would have helped me to figure out sooner that I had a voice to speak out. And that's also why I connected it back to raising children who like adults who are followers. how we're in these pressurized systems in our homes where children don't feel like they can speak up. They don't feel like um, their voice matters. And it could have been, a discussion between mom and between child or parent and child to go, well, I'm able to convey how I'm feeling when I'm going through, parent saying so, and also what are you going through, child? What are you experiencing this as? How is this landing on you? What are your needs in this moment? How can we better understand each other? And I see that as if we could do that in our homes, then we're better equipped to also do that in the world. And I can see us getting to a better state and place than where we are now, where everyone's so hell-bent on naming someone as something versus being able to speak up, articulate their needs and wants, and fight for it if they need to, or she found it, or not fight. Just have a discussion about what is needed versus the othering and the name shaming. Because some people are narcissists. Some parents
That's true.
fit those
I
descriptions,
also want to
and
remind our
some people are
listeners
not. Go ahead.
that most people who are diagnosing someone as a narcissist does not have the qualification to do so. I want y'all to know that
And even the
narcissism.
people that are diagnosing that have the qualifications to do so are following a book that was written by. I'll stop there.
Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, the Wahite. And listen, I looked this up. Narcissism is not like a mental illness; it's a personality trait. It's a personality trait. It's something that we learn and then integrate into our personalities, and then we live it through. Also, Tony of People Are Our Greatest Resource, one of our favorite networks to collaborate with in these parts, says, remember, narcissism is a spectrum. It's not bad at the other end. Narcissism for Tony equals self-preservation. And people are trying to preserve themselves or protect themselves. The biggest question in the room is why. And not just the why on the table, but what we teach in our network and what I teach in my studio, the why beneath the why beneath the why. How many whys deep, Tara?
5.
5 whys deep. Thank you, Poppy Water, for bringing illumination. 600 minutes, 525,000 moments.
A trillion why.
A trillion whys, so that we can start to unearth, why is mama talking to me that way? Why is daddy talking to me this way? Why am I 50 years old and still thinking about what they said to me 40 years ago?
Right.
You know?
And how
this
does
is
it affect my relationship?
One of my coaches talks often about, how much childhood conditioning many of us as adults are fighting against. And I think that's just such an interesting concept that, you kind of feel like you've healed from it or you're a different person. And then for me as a parent, sometimes I realize that am I still in this game? Yep, I am. Anyway, sometimes I feel like I'm healed from it, and then I'll realize that I'm doing something with my kid that my mom did with me that's not empowering to me, right? It brings up a memory of ooh, doesn't it? But just I think the thing, and Poppy, you pointed to this in your share, and I swear I'll let us move on, is that some of the reason, you pointed to it, you pointed to blame. We've talked about blame on this podcast before. We've talked about blame in the clubhouse rooms. We've talked about blame a lot of places. But sometimes our assumption of what feels good to us also feeling good to another person is flawed, right? And that is no fault of ours, and it's no fault of the other person's. It's just that some of the things that my mom did or that my parents did were things that felt good to them, but in the end were not empowering or good for me. And that's not their fault. They were doing the best they could with what they had. And I do think that if we had more tools to communicate and teaching kids, and this is what I do in my studio, right, is just essentially give kids and people a place to actually have a real experimental conversation. And y'all know the parenting is happening right now. The dog is playing, or the baby is playing with the fake dog, which the other dog, the real dog, is chasing. So that's what's happening right now. Anyway, but yeah, I wanted to bring up that blame. And then Tony said that that's deep with the whys. And it really does work. It really does work. If you have a belief and you say, why do I have that belief? And then you figure out that it's from another belief. And then you say, why? And then you figured out that it came from, your great great grandmother. And you're like, well, why did my great great grandmother believe that? And then you're like, well, why did her mama believe that? And then you're just there. And it's like, oh, but actually that's false. Right? Or, oh, this belief isn't serving me, or, oh, that thing that I do isn't serving me or the people around me, et cetera, et cetera. I yield.
Papa, are you having a technical situation?
Yes. I cannot hear you all.
So you
I
need
hear you because you're in this house.
You need to refresh.
But I was like, I want to hear.
You need to refresh.
Let me see.
So yeah, Tony, going 5 whys deep and beyond will start to really unpack where the truth lies about why you feel the way you feel. And good on you, Tara, for recognizing these patterns, right? These patterns that will repeat themselves over and over again in our world if we don't apply a level of mindfulness. And that's what life wants from us, a level of mindfulness. All right, Tara, let's go forward with your inspo.
Yeah, okay, y'all, this didn't really have a better title than this. I, like all of you, have been a little bummed out this week and the last few months and the last 2 years and the last 34 years. And so I just saw these and wanted to bring them because they gave me a little bit of hope. They gave me a little bit of upliftment. So the first one is from P.J. That's how it's spelled, _. July will be filled with love. July will be filled with wealth. July will be filled with peace. July will be filled with healing. July will be filled, I don't know why that's happening. July will be filled with kindness. July will be filled with progress. July will be filled with blessings. July will be filled with happiness. July will be filled with opportunities. And then the next one is from Healing Moon Muse. Say that 5 times fast. May your July be filled. Nope, that's not what it says. It says, may your July be full of wonder and whimsy. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is from The Reclaimed. Those of you that have been here before know that this is one of my favorite accounts on the whole entire internet. Okay, I think her handle is the same everywhere, but I think on TikTok, her name is Shirley Chisholm Folding Chair, and every time I see it, it just makes me cackle. But anyway, this says, and I think this is important. This is important. This visioning, this collective imagination, the answers to these questions are so important. What kind of nation do you want to live in? Do you want to live where everyone can eat every day? Where everyone has access to a safe home? Where everyone has access to affordable, high-quality healthcare?
And the rockets red.
Wait, have you seen the YouTube or there's a couple TikTok videos of these pianists? I'll go back to this, I promise y'all. There's this TikTok video where these people who sing and are also pianists, they take the last note in a phrase, and they start on that phrase. So it's like, oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at, and you change keys. And anyway, it ends up in the same key. It's wild. It's a wild thing. Next time I see it, I'll do it. Please make this bigger again. Thank you so much.
Not an easy racist song to sing.
Not an easy racist song to sing, especially when you're doing 4-bar phrases, friends. Don't do 2 bars, do 4 bars, okay?
You can join us in mock auditions and advice on Wednesdays
Wednesdays
and
and
Saturdays.
Back to this. All right. Where everyone has access to affordable, high quality health care, where good education is a right, where clean air, water, and soil are the norm, where everyone has access to nutritious food, where medical and scientific advancement thrive, where diversity is a strength, where inclusion is normalized, where humanity is prioritized. Journal about those, y'all. And then find your people with the answers.
Yeah, the one for me is inclusion. Y'all know I have an axe to grind with the cult of Christ that I come out of. I have a problem that faith-based ecosystems are not truly inclusive. I have a problem that the thing that holds it together is who we can exclude. And I think it's going to be a problem after today's legislation. I think that those of us who truly believe in love, for those of us whose religion is love, we're going to need to figure out a way to house these houseless people and to feed these people. Like, if the SNAP goes away, what programs are we going to develop? Poppy Water and I have been navigating
I'm still gagged that she said a safe housing and we heard gunshots, even though there were fireworks all the time. Safe housing. Sarah is everybody. She deserves it.
And the dogs over the next 48 hours.
Oh my gosh, all over the world.
Yeah,
all over the US will be swept.
The pets don't really enjoy that part. But yeah, like what does food provision look like? Poppy Water and I are doing a bunch of transitions and looking for new places to headquarter our ministry and mission work. And I would have to, walk 18 miles away to find someone to talk to about food provision. We know that in the town that we live in, 1 in 6 people are food unstable. They do not know how they're going to eat tonight. These are men, women, and children, and they, thems, and everything else. And so we're really going to have to get serious about the ways in which we care. Now, if you're like the Republicans and you just don't give a fuck, and you're able to whip votes into shape to not care about people, you're going to have your own hell to live in. I don't believe that hell is a place we go to after we die. I think it's something that I'm experiencing right now. Trust me. So let them have that. But for those of us who call ourselves loving people and community advocates and the caring ones, it's going to be time for us to step our pussies up. And we're not prescriptive about what that looks like. Care looks different on everybody, but we're going to have to do things different. And I think that looks like the Love and Truth Project and a bunch of different community mapping things that we're doing. I had a wonderful conversation today with Tony of People Are Our Greatest Resource Network about directories. I think old school 1980s, 1990s directories where you saw someone's shiny face and what they could offer and their contact information and how they're seeking to help the collective. I think those are going to be coming back. And I think that it won't just be networks like Love and Action Network that will have directories where people can seek help. It's going to be tons of them. It's kind of crazy also, and I'm not going to even get into the nonprofit industrial complex today and the sham that can be. But it's crazy that, outside of the United Way and other publicly largely funded organizations, you can't really find the help. I mean, I've been working for 2 years in pseudo isolation. The internet gives you this impression that you're not isolated. But when Poppy Water and I, in the last year and a half or so, were in the soup kitchens trying to find support, watching people be abused with their furry animals inside of buildings,
oh God, the lady and her dog being put out the church for reacting to being discriminated against.
and alleged white people care about the animals more than they care about the black people.
Well, the dog was put out too.
The dog, it was equal opportunity catching it that day. We're going to have to do better. And I saw this earlier in the week. The fact that every church house is not a shelter for people who need the help is something that we need to investigate in these times.
Well, and why is every corporation not putting cots out at night when they're leaving their lights on? Right? Every business building that has people in it during the day, why is it not? Every college that has a whole cafeteria that's empty in the summers.
All these colleges who are not, let's talk about the fact that these colleges nationwide are not filling all their beds. Enrollment is down. There's whole dorms. Is on whose side? There's a whole, my college that I went to, Jesus, I even stutter calling them that because they was mine, I wasn't theirs. They had whole dorms, a whole dorm being closed because of enrollment being down. That's like what? We got like 20 rooms per floor, 10 floors on each side of the building. And the whole building's closed, but no one can sleep there. No homeless people can sleep there. We have nowhere to put them. They done built this Alcatraz. We talked about that. They built Alcatraz in a few days. They built bunk beds.
8 days.
In 8 days.
It took them 8 days to
house
build
hundreds of people.
Yeah. It's wild out here. And I see you, Tony. I know that you can. I know that you will. I know that we're going to connect it. And for those of you, we hang out in the clubhouse spaces. We're always trying to pay attention to the pulse of the people and what they're feeling and what they're saying in the moment. We love social audio and all of those spaces. For those of you who say, why hang this on the Christians and the Christianes? Why are you attacking the church for the lack of care? Well, because y'all are the people.
Care.
Exactly. Yeah. Jesus was feeding people, taking care of the outsider, throwing an amazing party. We've been talking all day about how Jesus allegedly turned that water into wine. Why don't we see the rejoicing
tonight?
That's what I'm going to say. All three of us, y'all can join us when we get off here in the Uno room. Okay, you gotta come to the WhatsApp community for that. Okay, but y'all know how to get there. Loved and lovable link. Loved and lovable link, and you can find Tony in his universe and community. He typed it out right there in the comment section where I'm pointing at. Right there, it's on the screen. Okay, you can search that. And
she found her blinker, y'all. She found her blinker.
Well, you're like in this weird like.
I can point directly at him, but I don't know if I am.
Got it.
They're scaring me.
Are you mirrored or not? You have mirrored image, or are you in the opposite direction?
You can change. You can change your settings and decide where you are.
Okay, girls.
Because when I came back in, it was definitely showing my back camera, and I had to hurry up and figure that out. I'm glad you were in the big screen.
Look at that.
Yes, Tony. I am. Are you?
Yes, and there's Uno. We're playing Uno for those of you
on an app called Play-Doh.
Yeah, and
I gotta download that.
Well, and for that particular game, you don't have to download, but we're going to be playing like over 50 games together and just really trying to have joy in these crazy times. So, get rid of your revenge porn.
I have to say this so that we don't become vulnerable narcissists. We gotta. No, that something good is happening.
I really do believe, King, that the cure and one of the antidotes for the pain and the venomous energy that we're feeling right now in society is going to be community. One thing that we believe. Hallelujah. And one thing we do every day, and God is good, Tara.
All the time.
And all the time, Tara.
God is good.
You better believe it. You better.
Listen, I want the wine. We got to move.
Love is good, Tara.
All the time. And all the time, Poppy, love is good. Yeah, I don't care what you call love as long as you get into it. We need more. We need more. Speaking of which, Gaza, doctors under attack. This is a documentary that was removed from the BBC. They took it off because they did not want the suffering to be seen. I'm just going to point us briefly over to the
Donuts.
to the website. This is Substack has changed the game. Zetio is a new media organization. Got to share this tab instead. Zetio is a new media organization that seeks to answer the questions that really matter while always striving for the truth. Founded by Madai Hassan, Zetio is a movement for media accountability, unfiltered news, and bold opinions. If you click through, you're going to see that they put the whole hour and 5-minute documentary. After being dropped by the BBC, Zetio acquired Gaza, Doctors Under Attack, produced by Basement Films. The documentary... I don't know what I was about to say. That was there it is. The documentary shares the exclusive testimony of Palestinian doctors and healthcare workers in Gaza and examines the Israeli military attack on hospitals, which is a breach of international law. Y'all, they are breaking international law. They are harming people globally, and the media people in power don't want you to see it. But platforms like Substack and others are still liberated for now. So if you got an hour laying around and you don't want to look away from the suffering, I would encourage all of you to check that out. We are humans here who are not trying to be in isolation, because people in isolation cannot heal the collective. If you don't know what's going on, you're not going to be able to help. If you don't know where the rockets are red glaring, you don't know which way to run. And so I love that we're circling up. What say you, Poppy Water and Tara, as we move towards our wine, about what's happening to the helpers in Palestine and the ways in which, the oxycodone is being put into the flour, and the ways in which people are being shot to death trying to eat?
See, first thing that comes to my mind before I even fully get into that is if I have a question. If these governments or systems who create the laws don't follow the laws, why do we have to? They show it by example that the laws mean nothing to them until it's time to put us in our place.
We learned a long time ago, to your point, that the rules don't apply to everybody. So why do they apply to me? If I'm being honest, open, willing, and available, if I'm not causing any harm, why should I walk around with my tail tucked between my legs as if I'm, off?
That part. And I don't have much words other than it's just utterly fucking disgusting to deny another human aid. Because I promise you right now, if all of our government officials were in the White House and they collapsed on top of them, they wouldn't want nobody stopping nobody from coming to get their asses from underneath the rubble.
Child, when the insurrection happened and all of their bitch asses
when
were
they was
under
in
the
there
desks,
saying Nancy, where you at, Nancy? They was mad as hell at Trump and the administration. Everybody, they was mad. Why was there no one coming in to help us? Why were they allowed to be in there for so long? Everybody wants help, but these people don't want to give help. I just think they want to see what they can get away with. They humans don't feel connected to people these days. The average, I don't even like saying that because it ain't so true. Because the voices that they push to us, because these algorithms be lying, y'all. The average voice that they push to us is not concerned about people that they cannot see in their peripheral vision. They don't feel connected to them. They pushing this ideology that what happens to them does not happen to you, which we know firsthand what happens to them happens to us. They've been testing out. We're gonna try it overseas. We're gonna see if we can infringe on people's human rights overseas. And then we're gonna try it right here in the States. We're gonna do your neighbors first. And now we're gonna try you. It's it always it that and that's what's what's their name? That's what you call it meant when they it's the whole country, child. Trump just bombed them innocent people, child.
Iran.
Iran. That's what the even though that tweet is not even from their government, it's like a commentary account, but it was saying that everyone is going to feel it because we all feel it. When the world goes to war, we all feel it. Jesus Christ. I just don't. And the fact that they use Jesus to justify this.
Yeah, I
They're
mean
psychopaths.
the fact that they're harming people and then praying in tongues about it. Strange fruit, folks. Very strange fruit, and it's nothing new. All right, I
Spiritual
didn't know
bypassing.
as fuck. Spiritual bypassing as fuck. I didn't know how to package this next segment that we're going to do. I didn't even split it into pieces. Tara asked me before we walked into tape today, why did you put this all under the same thing? I didn't even know where to put it because I was so overwhelmed by the fact that I didn't even know what happened. You may be listening on our podcast over on Spotify, Apple Podcast, Android Podcast, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, all the spaces, Substack Podcast, YouTube video. You know, we got pretty faces, so why hide them, right? So wherever you're sourcing this shit, just know that I was 41 years plus however many days old when I realized that Mother King, the mother of Martin Luther King, was assassinated. And y'all can take my black card if you want to, but I had no fucking clue
I know.
that Mother King was assassinated. And here's the tea. And hopefully, yeah, let's see. As a mother, Alberta worked diligently to instill a sense of self-respect with her 3 children. King remembered his childhood as one of harmony, spent in a very congenial home situation with parents who always lived together very intimately. King Jr. maintained a close relationship with his mother throughout his life, writing to her from the Connecticut tobacco farm where he worked during the summer while a high school student. He requested, "Mother dear, I want you to send me some fried chicken and rolls." That's what my daddy asked for Christmas one year. It's a notorious story in our family, Tara. I'm not sure if you knew about that my dad asked for a fried chicken and a loaf of bread for Christmas one year, and I wouldn't mind Popeyes right now. 4 years later, as a first-year student at Crozer, Texas Pete, he wrote his mother, "I met a fine chick in Philly who has gone wild over the old boy. Although her soft-spoken nature compelled her to avoid the publicity that accompanied her son's international renown, she remained a constant source of strength to the King family, especially after King Jr.'s assassination." Now, check this out. This is the tea. In 1974, as she played the organ during Sunday services at Ebenezer Baptist Church, Alberta Williams King was shot by Marcus Chenault, a 21-year-old man from Ohio who claimed all Christians are my enemies. All right. Alberta Williams King died later that day at the age of 70. I did not know, y'all, that this was happening to the entire family who was seeking to stand up for justice. Wild. Here's another tale of a story.
Will be another day. We have a collection of 800 jars of soil in our museum. Mm-hmm. And we collect these soils from lynching sites and put it in a jar that has the name of the victim, the date of the victim, and then they bring it back to the museum An older black woman was digging soil at a site in West Alabama. She was afraid because it was on a dirt road in the middle of nowhere. And as she was about to dig, a big white man in a pickup truck drove by and stared at her and made her anxious. And then he parked his truck and walked toward her, and she was terrified. And then the man asked, "What are you doing?" And she was going to tell him that she was just getting dirt for her garden, but then she told that man, "I'm digging soil here because this is where a black man was lynched in 1937. And the man surprised her by asking, "Does that memo you have talk about the lynching?" She said it does. And then he asked, "Can I read it?" And she gave the man the memo, and he said, "Would it be all right if I helped you?" And she said yes. And the man got down on his knees and started throwing his whole body into picking up the soil and putting it in the jar. And she went from fear to relief to joy so quickly she couldn't help it. Tears were running down her face. And they kept digging, and they were getting near to filling the jar. And she looked over at the man, and she noticed that there was a tear running down his face. And she said, "Are you all right?" And that's when the man said, "No, ma'am, I'm just so worried that it might have been my grandfather who helped lynch this man." They both sat on that roadside and wept. And she said, "Well, I'm going to go back and put this jar of soil in the museum in Montgomery." And then the man said, "Well, ma'am, would it be all right if I just followed you back?" She said, "Sure." And I was there when these two people who met on a roadside in a place of agony and violence and bigotry came in and together did something beautiful by putting that jar of soil in that exhibit. I don't think this battle is over. I really don't. I think there will be another day. We have a collection of 800 jars of soil in our museum.
Mm-hmm.
And we collect.
Mm.
I'm moving quickly through this material in the interest of time and our wine and Uno party. But I did want to take a point of personal privilege for our host today. And Poppy Water is praying for the ancestors, apparently. I wanted to, as he does, and that's completely cool. I got to play this video, Tara, because I'm a black man here, and I love black people, and I'm pro-black. I'm called to all of humanity, but I'm really called to the least of these, which is what Jesus said. And there's one more that I want to play because
Thank you, Tony.
we're pretending like this doesn't happen. And like it's not happening, but it is.
I'll share with you a very disgusting pattern. Yona Lubrin, Orlando, Florida, found nearly naked and hanging from a tree, ruled a suicide. Denoris Richardson, Colbert County, Alabama, found hanging from a tree, ruled a suicide. Lennon Lacey, Bladenboro, North Carolina, found hanging from a tree, ruled a suicide. Robert Fuller and Malcolm Harsh, both found dead in the state of California, hanging from trees, and ruled a suicide. And now most recently, Earl Smith, Albany, New York, found hanging from a tree and ruled a suicide. Those 6 names that I just listed make up only a very small fraction of the amount of black men, women, and children that have gone missing over the decade since the 50s out of all the methods of suicide, with the most common being a self-inflicting gun wound. You're telling me that it's only ever black people that decide to take their own life using rope outside? I will never believe that. The victims' families will never believe that. The black community will never believe that. And as the police continue to play in our face for years to come, as the most ignorant of people will continue to call us victims and say we're playing victim, I hope that this message gets out to the right people to recognize that this shit is real. Modern day lynchings are very real, and they have no problem continuing to rule it a suicide when these literal people, these human beings, are being found hanging 10 feet off the fucking ground with zero news coverage. And let me be clear before I make the following statement. I do not wish this on anybody. That being said, let it be one white man or one white woman found hanging from a tree, that amount of attention and news coverage would surpass Gabby Petito. For this upcoming 4th of July weekend, people, everyone, please be safe. Keep in contact with your family members, your friends, your circles. Keep them updated with what you do throughout the weekend, because you never know what you might end up in. Frankly, again, you don't know what people are capable of. Be safe. Have a good weekend.
So
We have
CNN, I got you. So CNN may not be talking about this. MSNBC may not be talking about this. Fox News definitely is not talking about this. But throughout our country, niggas are going missing. In DC, young black girls are disappearing in crazy numbers. And while the other networks may not be talking about it, 35 young women disappearing in like the last month. They've had to call the police chief to the carpet for this because nobody wants to talk about the black lives disappearing. And I love all of humanity. You know, if I could go up for Ukraine and those pasty white people, then I'm definitely going to speak up for the black people. Once again, I didn't know what else to call this segment beyond Mother King because it is some full-on bullshit. Last one in this section, I want y'all to think about this and why these things are the way they are.
There were approximately 12,000 ships that brought 12.5 million Africans to the Americas. So you got 12,000 ships. Mm-hmm. What I realized was that I could not tell you the name of a single one of those ships growing up, but I could tell you about the Mayflower, I could tell you about the Titanic, I could tell you about all these other ships that were considered important, but I couldn't name one of those.
One of 12,000.
That didn't feel right to me. So it's the first stat. The second one, and this is the one that sits heaviest on my heart, I learned that there were 1.8 million Africans who died just in the crossing from Africa to the Americas. We're not talking about the number of people who died once they arrived and were enslaved. Just in the
transition.
I didn't know it was 1.8 million people. That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
I was like, where the memorial? Who's honoring that enormous loss of life? I was like, there are chapters of history that are just missing. So this work felt really important to me to be a part of. I learned that there were
Girl,
There's a
baby
theme
girl.
there.
Go on, Poppy.
Undocumented or underreported or buried history surrounding loss of Black life, of the life of African people, from Dr. King's mother down to the lynchings, down to those that didn't make it during a transatlantic genocide. I think it's just a disregard for our lives, a disvaluing of our lives all the way across and around the board. That King's mother being around them, trying to constantly suppress a regeneration of a movement. They didn't want anybody from that family inheriting his because this documentary's on it. I don't know how they did. It was brushed over, I believe, in the Betty and Coretta movie that they made. I think Mary J. Blige played in, child.
Spicy chicken, fresh lettuce.
Crispy chicken.
Oh, crispy chicken. Sorry. Okay. Crispy chicken, fresh lettuce.
Clearly, Flo is putting spicy on his chicken tonight, child.
Clearly, I'm glad I got 2 bottles of hot sauce in one trip.
Hot sauce is love, and love is hot sauce. Don't y'all ever forget it. Go ahead, King. I'm sorry. I couldn't. Every time I hear about Mary J. Blige, I think about that little dance she does in that McDonald's crispy chicken commercial.
She ate that up, and people was eating that Burger King. It was Burger King. We're gonna help Dr. Phil along. And but yeah, they were killing off and intimidating members of the King family because they didn't want him to inherit the social power that he had. They didn't want a new uprising to start because you had Betty and Coretta coming together to for movements in ways that people hoped and prayed for Martin Luther King and Malcolm X to do. And you have their wives and the legacy coming together in a way that they could not have. I believe one of those women were burned alive in their home with the children, the grandchildren. So there's that. That it's fear of us moving and moving along. And then you have the hate and the fear of us becoming better. The disdain and the disgust and the hatred towards us just surviving, and not only surviving, but thriving. And corruption and covering it up with the modern day lynching, people going missing, truck drivers going missing, people going missing. I had someone who I was social. We weren't friends in like where we talked on the phone, but we were social media like friends in that sense. Went missing on his birthday and was found by a river, barefoot. And they tried to somehow deem it as a suicide when it looks like and described as if he was chased. He ended up towns over, went missing in Houston, Texas, ended up multiple counties over, barefoot, near a creek. Like, what is happening? For me, it just feels like the name of the game never changed. It was all about getting us to be content with what was going on.
Not only content, King, but also scared of rising up socioeconomically, rising up in our education, rising up in our power. We're going to be doing a series or a segment. I'm calling in a bunch of amazing minds. One is watching in the audience right now. I'm not going to give her up because she's sitting there and she's loved and lovable and awesome. But we're going to be having conversations soon around Black excellence, and how Black excellence was what they used in order to scare us in exchange for the Black power that we had. All of this is intimidation using one of the oldest tactics in the book, fear. They don't want movements growing. They want us to be scared of how awesome we are. They want us to believe in this myth called white supremacy. I don't believe in white supremacy because if you were so supreme, you'd be able to take care of 17 million people who need to eat. If you were so supreme, you'd be able to take care of 17 million people who need to go to the doctor to know that their blood pressures are okay and that their sugar hasn't gotten too low. Supreme where? So we're going to continue to just step our pussies up, like I said earlier. We're going to continue, in the words of Tara, to say the ish that nobody wants to talk about. It's important, y'all. And if, by the way, this was coming up for me while I was doing this particular segment today. I have a house, okay? I'm cared and taken care of. Why would I leave my house to go and try to suspend myself by noose 20 feet in the air? Huh?
10, 20 feet. How?
Why would I leave out? Like,
how? How'd you get up there? That's
So you're warning me, it's wanting me to stand up and move a little for 1 minute because I've been sitting in this podcast forever. So I'm going to get my move, I'm going to close my move ring, y'all, while I'm standing here. But like, how in the world is it possible for us to actually believe that these things are happening? We don't believe that it's happening. It's fear-mongering, it's intimidation, and it's happening to everybody. Trust me, folks, I'm no racist the way y'all try to paint me. Dr. Racist, Dr. Anti-Semite, Dr. whatever. That's not my story. That's not my story because I know poor white people in this life who have it just as bad as everybody else. This is class warfare. And they try to scare and intimidate everybody. And we're really going to need to come together, especially in these times. Speaking of come together, we are calling at Love and Action Network for a ceasefire now. Ceasefire in our hearts, ceasefire in our minds, ceasefire in our body temples. I've had to call for a ceasefire over the last 72 hours because everything on the news and everything in the feeds is trying to scare and intimidate all of us. And I just don't want to go with it. I just don't want to go with it. There is a thing that Poppy Water called spiritual warfare, subconscious warfare, the propaganda that's trying to make us be at war with each other. I don't want to buy it. What are y'all calling a ceasefire to in your own lives?
I'm calling a ceasefire to myself. I'm calling a ceasefire on me firing on myself and my confidence and my ability to speak out. I'm saying no more to believing in the fear politics. Okay, no more believing that I, as solely one person, have to save the world because that doesn't work. I'm also calling out no more a ceasefire now. Let's cease the putting the entire backs of liberation movements on one person. That's It makes it easy. It makes them a target. It makes it easy to snuff out a movement, to kill off a movement, putting the entire backs onto one people. If everybody moves with as much vigor towards liberation, we'll get somewhere. Of course, I'm calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. I'm calling for a ceasing of the exploitation of African children in the Congo. Free the Congo. I'm calling for a ceasing of the burning of the Amazon. Free the Amazon. I'm calling for a cease and lack of care of the water crisis in Flint. Handing out Brita filters and everybody's not getting one is not doing enough at all. Hell, my water's brown. I'm just blessed it's drinkable. What are we doing here, people? Y'all can figure out how to, and I'm gonna end like this. We have a government that will put money towards figuring out how to put water on Mars, but we can't get water in Flint. So y'all can find water on Mars and figure out how to make it rain on it. It's a lot to think about. Maybe the Martians will appreciate it. Because they say Whitey on the moon. Now it's Whitey on Mars. I yield.
I can't even entertain those conversations about finding life on Mars or colonizing Mars and things like that when there's so much suffering here. I've always said it, especially recently, what the ruling class lacks is empathy. And I will not stop saying this until I draw my last breath. And it won't be from a suicide in a park somewhere. Okay? They lack empathy. They danced today at the Capitol to YMCA after sentencing millions of people to death. And I don't think it's cute at all. I will never think it's cute. That lack of empathy is going to ripple into everything. Tara, what are you calling ceasefire on?
I'll be short and brief because I say it a lot. Ceasefire now, in our hearts, in our minds, and the world over. To add to Poppy's list, free Palestine, free Congo, free Sudan, free Haiti, Hawaii, all of the places that have been colonized. One of the people that sometimes we bring on the pod to watch is Ismatu, and Ismatu is doing a lot of work in Sierra Leone to bring work and money and books to schools there, and doing so through bags of rice, which are affordable. And so if you're interested in checking that out, please check out Ismatu Gwendolyn on any platform. It's ISMATU, Ismatu. And so that's is another thing that I want to call attention to. Of course, free the Uyghurs, end that genocide. There's also another one in India that I cannot remember the name of the Kurds. I think that's the name. I think that's India, Iran, uh, you know, all of these places. The West Bank, we talk a lot about Gaza, but we don't talk a lot about the West Bank, which has been occupied for, 20 plus years. So there's a lot. There's a lot to hold. And I guess I'll close by saying that there's, like Poppy was saying, there's a lot to hold, but we can hold it a bit easier together. You don't have to put all, like Poppy was saying, you don't have to put all of the world's liberation on your own personal back. It will not work. That is called building a cult. As we idolize people. I got in my stories the other day, I was talking about it, and I was talking about how we idolize Democratic leaders just as the same way that we criticize MAGA people for idolizing Donald Trump. Y'all got to stop that. We do not need a cult. We need communities, and we need movements. So that's where I'll end.
Every time you say free the Uyghurs, I always go, what did she just call me? But it's a whole different group of people, y'all.
Freedom too.
Okay?
And freedom too. Be who you want to be.
We bring yes. Freedom to everybody. We are a liberation project here in Love and Action Network. We won't stop. Speaking of which, my Love Revival and Academy is launching. Some of you are part of it in ways that you don't even recognize. There are people who are getting donation-based coaching from me. There are people who come into the Clubhouse room every day. There are people coming to my rehearsals on TikTok. There are people who have bought me TVs and paid for groceries and the clothes and everything on my back are part of this love revival. I believe that a love revival is trying to break out of the hearts of each and every one of us, and we're the only ones standing in its way. So if you're interested in being part of the love revival by coming to our Clubhouse rooms, coming to our mock audition and advice workshops, our business workshops, you name it, just plug on in. Because this is legacy work. This is stuff that we're going to be doing for the next 25 years, including the Uno party that's coming up right after we complete here and go and get some vino. This is what I believe the future looks like for me. If you don't have a vision board, get into it. This is one of the pictures on my vision board. It's me in my crown with a multicultural, multi-generational choir behind me spreading a message of hope and love. I show it every week so y'all don't forget who the fuck I is and what I came to do on the planet. Announcements are that we adopt a Black artist every week. We have some catching up to do on recruitment and also highlighting the over 7 artists that we've already brought attention to. But Fridays on our platforms, we promote Black artists. We'll provide a donation link and what they need in this moment. Remember, people may not be narcissists. They may just have needs that you're not listening to. And if you cannot give monetarily, consider free options like sharing, liking, commenting, saving, nominating the artist, and promoting them on your platforms. Even sharing an artist to your story could get eyes on them that they would not otherwise have. I'm also hiring for the Love Experience. Be part of something bigger than yourself as we unite the talents of diverse artists to celebrate the power of love through music, theater, and art throughout the country. We're seeking venues. We're seeking singers, dancers, beatboxers. I would love to talk to magicians. I would love to talk to on-air talent. I would love to have y'all call in to the website at lovedandlovable.bio.link and leave a message of hope that we can play on our social media platform. We are looking for you. Tara, tell these people about the way in which you're blackening the canon and seeking to diversify these predominantly white spaces that we call classical music and classical music through academia.
Yeah, I'll be quick. We all have a role to play in the revolution. We all have a role to play in creating the world that we want to live in together. And this is my chosen way. And I believe it will make a difference. I believe that everybody deserves to see themselves in whatever type of music or whatever type of art that they are trying to create. And one of those ways is diversifying the canon of the way in which we train singers and train instrumentalists. And I think one of the easiest ways is by having Black composers on the docket to choose from instead of all the dead white men that we consistently sing. And I think pushing from that angle will change the industry as a whole, so that instead of getting lots of shows on Black trauma, we actually get shows on Black joy, and we get intersectional shows, and we get celebration of Black love and the nuclear family and the not nuclear family, and just these really beautiful things that can be showcased inside of classical music, that I think we're really doing a disservice to at this time. And I think it will be helpful to open up many doors to many, many groups of people.
And whether you're the one showcasing or being showcased, you deserve.
That part. And if you're interested right now, there is a WhatsApp community. And then also I will be putting out an album. It will come out in July, y'all. It will come out in July because I was literally editing some of it while we were on this podcast. So it'll be out in July. Okay, I yield.
Yeah, this has been one for the books. We knew it would be because we're looking for hosts like y'all. We've got about 3 more slots on the stage. 3 more slots we have on the stage. So if you're interested in stopping by in our neighborhood and contributing to the conversation, we would love to platform you and your community and what you're working on. We do Roses, Thorns, Needs, and Seeds every day in our community online. So if you've got seeds and you want to talk about it, just shoot us a DM. We would love to have you trained up and coming on a pod. Poppy Water, tell them about what you're offering to the planet.
So I do offer spiritual services in various degrees. And by degrees, I mean 30 minutes, an hour, 15, 30 minutes to an hour. I do numerology sessions where using your numerology chart, we can figure out some things and energies as far as what's going on in your life or what you may need or what's coming up for you, as well as um, like dice rolls. I can read with the numbers as far as that is concerned. Pulling playing cards as I kind of have some out that I keep shuffling tonight. I read playing cards and kind of tarot, but if I'm doing your reading through these services, I'm doing playing cards. That is my forte. And then also doing chakra healing sessions where I'm pulling from my chakra deck and more so using intention around color magic and things of that nature to help heal and guide people as far as what's coming up for them. Also offer branding services. Um, I'm not to the point to where I do full-blown websites, though I can get you everything you need as far as your aesthetic, branding, logo, and design mapped out that you may need for your website. I do logos, I have done album covers, and I have even worked on catalogs for people, like little pieces that one may need to showcase what they're selling on their website and things of that nature. So if you want to get your brand together, you want to move into a more cohesive flow, or you're trying to figure out how to get there, I would love to help and see how that works. It also involves a little bit of intuitive thoughts and color magic and things of that nature. So I'm just here to help. I specifically like to help spiritually inclined people take that next step, and creative people, people of color, we all people of color, child. Um, People of color, marginalized people. But if you don't fit that description, then you move in harmony and your money, your check don't bounce. Okay. Or you want to barter something that of service to me that I need. We can talk. And with that, I like to say I yield. Let's get to the bag, everybody. Because everybody needs something.
Speaking of color magic, King, the neighbors call you Pinky. And for those of you who may be listening in, he's dressed in pink from head to toe. Why do you wear pink? What's the color magic behind pink and why you wear that on lives and in the world so boldly for people who are getting to know you perhaps for the first time?
Well, pink is a self-love color. It's frequency of self-love. I also in looking into color magic and the way that I see it and the way it appears to me, I don't see red and pink as two different colors. So when you looking at pink as a color of self-love, you were to intensify that and it becomes that red, gold, passion, and confidence when we get the color red. But and coming back to the color pink, is the color of self-love and self-healing. You see pink Himalayan sea salt as being known for having its healing properties and being used in healing work. And people like to have the pink salt lamps and the things of that nature. But I prefer pink because I have to be softer and kinder to myself. And it's a way to remind me to do so and to perform self-care. It's that self, we talked about self-preservation earlier. It's necessary. You have to think about how you're going to make it before you can think about how you're going to help somebody else make it. Tara talks about it. Dr. Flo has mentioned it. You got to put your oxygen mask on first. And sometimes that means I need to soak. I need to love myself. I need to put my oils on. I need to brush my teeth. I need to wash my face before going out to process things like the big bullshit bill. Before I can even think about the big bullshit bill, let me self-care and love on myself so that I may move better in this world. And I love pink for those reasons because, yeah, why not love me? Ain't nobody gonna love you like you gonna love me.
It's true. It's true. Self-care is the best care. It's so good to have my husband on the live as our special guest host. Y'all have been watching Deconstruction Junction. We've been doing this for a very, very long time. We have the conversations in our living room live here over many miles to talk about the things that perhaps you're thinking about inside your dome and to just give voice and air to life and to breathe onto these subjects that may be destabilizing us or making us feel uncomfortable, and also the things that bring us joy and light us up. So thank y'all so much for watching. What are your closing thoughts, Poppy Water and Tara, as I take us in reverse? And thanks everybody for watching. What are your closing thoughts, Poppy Water, then Tara, and then I'll close this out.
Hold space for joy in your heart. Hold space for sadness. Hold space for grief. Allow yourself to experience all of the emotions that's going to come up in your life. Don't close yourself off to anything. Don't don't make your experience centered around one state of being. There's always good things happening. There's always bad things happening. Allow yourself to be able to hold both and to transition based on how it's needed in the moment. You can be concerned and you can still go out and shake your ass on the bar if that's what you need to do tonight. With that, I yield. Mwah. If the world goes, I'm going at a jubilee.
At a jubilee. Come on, Poppy Water.
I know that's right.
Listen, he told no lies. Okay, we know that to be true. Y'all, I feel like I remind this somewhere in this podcast every single week. You're not alone. You're not alone. You are not alone. You are not alone. You're not alone. Somebody else has the same thought as you. Somebody else is asking the same question as you. Somebody else has the same feeling as you. Somebody else is wanting to have the conversation that you want to have. You are not alone. You're not alone. That's all.
We keep showing up week after week because we want to demonstrate what it looks like to take a few hours in your day to talk to your friends in a very visible way about the things that are important to you. And people are not going to know what's important to you and what you love and how you care unless you show up. So taste and see that love is good. Taste and see that we care. Taste and see that you're loved and lovable. You've always been loved and lovable, and you're going to be loved and lovable for the rest of your life. And yeah, we have work, smiles, support, songs, and shenanigans. And we've demonstrated all of those. The shenanigan part was that I needed to take a little snack break in the middle of the TED Talk because my blood sugar was getting low. I knew this was going to be a 2-hour episode, but I just didn't know, like, I wasn't strapped in.
We all saw it happen. Y'all go back. It was about an hour and 15 ago, and Flo was going.
Because I had to pee, and my blood sugar was doing a number on Grandma Flo, child.
I haven't had any water since we started.
Well, then let's go get you some water. On behalf of all of us in Love and Action Network, Tara Parolo Studio, Poppy Water 33, myself, Andre, and the Flo, thank y'all so much for watching. We invite you always to stay in your power, stay in your joy, stay loved and lovable, and we'll see you next week. Same time, same place on Love and Action Network. Take care, everybody.